This does feel a little bit like selling my soul because I'm about to do my NFL power rankings. I hate NFL power rankings. I pretty much ignore all NFL power ranking content. I give everybody a chance maybe once if it comes up. I'll look at Colin Cowherd's, I'll look at Tom Brady's, but ultimately I just end up disagreeing with the concept of it. For me, the power rankings are released every single week and they are the betting odds as to who will win the Super Bowl. They, for me, are the power rankings. I would trust the books more so than I would trust Brady, than I would trust Cowherd or anybody else doing these top 10s. The only point of doing these top 10s would be to say that you disagree with the books. If you can find any difference in the order, then there would be a relevant reason to do it. And that's exactly how I feel. I'm going to be doing my top 10 because I do feel differently to the books. But for the most part, the only power ranking that you need to see, the most credible power ranking that you need to see, are the Super Bowl odds, because they will reflect the rankings much better than anybody else. Now, this isn't just a case of looking at who will be favourite against who, because I see somebody doing it that way. Johnny the Greek, another person who power ranks teams, he's an idiot. And he'll come on and he'll say, I got this team power ranked above this team because this team would be a favourite against this team. Okay, but does that team, for example, the Kansas City Chiefs, who he said he has power ranked at number 5, do they have as good of a chance to go to the Super Bowl as the New England Patriots? I understand who will be favourite in a matchup, and I understand that is your key deciding factor in terms of how you power rank teams, because his power rankings will be just an order of teams who would be favourites against each other, and his top team would be a favourite against everybody on a neutral site. That's not how you power rank. At the same time, you also don't power rank by just looking at the seedings and saying the number 1 seeds are the number 1 and 2 teams. Well, yeah, fuckface, I could just look at the charts and I would know exactly how to see who's the number 1 seed, who's the number 2 seed, who's the number 3 seed, and then put those teams in order. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. No, that's not how you power rank teams either. And that's pretty much how Tom Brady's power rankings have looked throughout the year, because for a large period of time, he had Indianapolis Colts as number 1. We knew it was wrong then. It's proven to be wrong now. A lot of people don't even have the Colts in their top 10 suddenly. So that kind of pours water on those types of versions. What I'm looking for is something that's most closely resembling the betting market. And then perhaps you can make 1 or 2 changes, 1 or 2 tweaks where you implement your opinion based on what you've seen, and then try to find the edges over the books. So that you can bet particular matchups using your power rankings, and probably most significantly determine who wins the Super Bowl, who wins the AFC, and who wins the NFC. So without further ado, here is my version of the current NFL top 10. So here we go. As I'm not a massive fan of these, I'm going to try and blow through them as quickly as possible. And in positions 10, 9 and 8, we have a cluster of teams who I consider to be the established hierarchy. In 10th position, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, if they get through to the postseason, they are going to be a very dangerous team because they've been there and done it. But I have them in 10th position because they have a lot of work to do to make it through to the postseason. Number 9, we have the Baltimore Ravens. I am not convinced by them this season. They very much look like they could make it to the postseason, but they are only going to be dangerous if their players are healthy. You need a 100% Lamar Jackson. With a 100% Lamar Jackson and a fully fit Derrick Henry, this team are in the top 5, but I've not seen that so far, so I can't put them any higher than number 9. Number 8, you have the Buffalo Bills, and I truly believe for the Bills to reach a Super Bowl, they are going to need to be the number 1 seeds because they are going to need to be playing every single game at home. I do not trust this team on the road in the playoffs, and that's why I have them at number 8, because that currently looks like like where they're going to finish. At number 7, I have my very own dark horse for the Super Bowl this year, and that is the Houston Texans. For me, this is the best defense in the NFL, and their offense is competent enough for them to win games with Stroud having decent receivers to throw to. Therefore, that is why I have inserted this team between the established hierarchy and the frauds who are doing well, who are coming up next on this list. So we have a group of fraudulent teams up next who look like they are in contention for the number 1 seed. I have the Denver Broncos at number 6. For me, they are the least convincing out of these 3 teams. I think that they are going to lose very early in the playoffs. I don't think that they can put up enough points. I think Bo Nix is a bad quarterback, and their defense is elite. It's in the top 3, but it's not as good as the Houston Texans. This team are going to get found out. Number 5, we have the New England Patriots. Yes, they have a very, very good record, but they haven't beaten anybody really other than winning away to the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills have the opportunity to reverse that victory in a few weeks and make the AFC East very, very interesting moving forward. So I'm not convinced by the Patriots, but you can only beat who's in front of you. And I think when a better team is in front of them in the playoffs, they will ultimately lose. But they are in a good position for the future, especially with Drake May looking like he could potentially be a top 5 quarterback if he isn't one already. At number 4, we have the Chicago Bears. They're still fraudulent, but they are the least fraudulent for me. Yes, they have the 1-score wins, but I was massively impressed by the way that they not only beat, but destroyed the Philadelphia Eagles on Black Friday. That's the Super Bowl champions, and you pretty much were able to do whatever you wanted to do against them. The real test that comes this weekend, though, against the Green Bay Packers. Win that, and you could genuinely be not only the division winners, but the number 1 seed in the NFC. Number 3, I have the St. Louis or LA Rams. They, for me, are being overrated by many. They were being overrated when they were everybody's number 1 in the power rankings, and they were favourites to win the Super Bowl in the market, which they still are. This is where my top 10, my power rankings differ from other people. This is why it's important sometimes to do power rankings if you have something important to say. And my take here is on the Rams. I'm not convinced on the Rams. I think Matthew Stafford is great. He's played out of his skin, but I just do not trust this team in the postseason to get over the line. They have no significant home advantage in a lot of their home games. Even if they are the number 1 seed, you're going to have a lot more traveling supporters there. And their win over Seattle is the main reason I am not convinced, because Seattle had 4 turnovers in that game and were still in a position to win it. At the end, they still have to travel to Seattle, and therefore the division is in no way sewn up. Therefore, you can't be saying they're going to be the number 1 seed. You can't for me say they're the Super Bowl favourites, and you can't for me say that they are even going to win their division, because they still have to play the Seahawks one more time away from home. Number 2, you have the Green Bay Packers. They have been very, very inconsistent, but I do believe this is a team who can win the Super Bowl if Matt LaFleur lets Jordan Love throw the ball. If you let Jordan Love throw the ball and beat Jordan Love, this for me will be the number 1 team, because you have an elite defense there. Obviously, Parsons has made a significant difference, and Parsons has turned up to the party in the past few weeks. It's a huge game for the Packers this weekend. If they can beat the Chicago Bears, they can probably move up into top position. If they win by margin, for me, they should be the definite favourites to win the Super Bowl, and could even be the number 1 seeds, because they could probably beat Chicago again and not only win this division convincingly, but also compete for number 1 seeding. But until I see it, I'm going to leave them here at number 2. And number 1, a big surprise maybe to some people, are the Seattle Seahawks. Everybody's rating the Rams, but as I said earlier on when I was talking about the Rams, the Seahawks should have beaten them on their own patch. They had 4 turnovers and were still in a position to win the game at the end. Now at home, I'm expecting them to win this game, and I'm expecting them to take over as the number one seeds in the NFC West. If you're in a position where you're the number one seeds in the NFC West, then it's possible that you'll be the number one seeds, and therefore the route to the Super Bowl will run through Seattle. I think this is a very, very young team who could be there or thereabouts for years to come. The defense is elite. The offense is elite. Obviously, there's question marks over Sam Darnold, and those question marks will get bigger in the postseason, but this isn't the Minnesota Vikings. This isn't a team who are relying on winning close games. We knew the margin of victory for the Vikings going into the playoffs last year was very narrow and constantly narrow, and you can't continue to win those close games, as the Chiefs are finding out in the regular season this year. They were winning close games last year too, but they got away with it. The Vikings didn't, and now the Chiefs are not getting away with it in the regular season. Everything comes to an end. Luck ratings are there for a reason, and they are meaningful. And Seattle, unlike the Vikings who Darnold played for last year, haven't relied on luck. They have been a dominant team, and I believe they are in a very good position to still win their division, because they face a team who only beat them on their own patch because of the four turnovers, and they still had an opportunity to win that game at the end. So for me, this young team with an elite defense and a quarterback who is probably under less pressure here in his second season in the playoffs, and also there's no pressure on him playing for a contract. He knew last year that McCarthy was ready to come in and take over, and that obviously puts extra pressure on Darnold, and I don't think it's going to be there when he's playing for this young team in the playoffs, because they've already surpassed expectations by simply being there, and if they achieve number one seed status, they have blown away any expectations that people had for them at the start of the season. I expected nothing from Seattle at the start of the season. I'm surprised to see them being as good as they are, but I know what my eyes are telling me. My eyes are telling me that at the moment they are the most dangerous team in the entire NFL, and that's why I've put them as my number one power rank team here in this power ranking chart.